From the poverty shacks, he looks from the cracks to the tracks, and the beat pounding his brain.
The development of direct cinema was a defining moment in the history of documentary. The invention of lighter, portable handheld cameras provided filmmakers with a much more intimate and unobtrusive method of filmmaking.
Utilizing these small cameras allowed documentarians to act as a fly on the wall as they strive to capture reality in its purest form. Implementing this form of documentary filmmaking is the closest way one can truly capture reality and truth.
Films like Primary, Don't Look Back, and Salesman are concrete examples of the style of direct cinema and its ability to capture reality without the interference or judgment from the filmmakers.
Robert Drew's 1960 documentary Primary is the most quintessential example of direct cinema. Shot by Richard Leacock and Albert Maysles, the cameramen consistently utilize close-ups and tight framing to truly capture a feeling of intimacy and complete immersion within the world of the film. We can see here just how close the camera is positioned behind the subject's head, and how the focus is never on the subject who is being interviewed, but rather by the journalists doing the interviewing or the people who are there just listening. Another instance of this style of framing is seen in the film's most famous sequence of John F. Kennedy weaving through the crowds of people. The camera quite literally hovers right over his head. The high angle tilted downward reveals the massive crowd of faces all reacting to JFK, the main subject. It's interesting how we, again, do not see the subject's face. Just like in the previous shot, we only see the reactions of other people and never the facial reactions of the prime subject in the framing. This element of direct cinema, in this particular case, is used to display just how influential and drawing of a figure John F. Kennedy was. By only seeing images of other people's reactions to JFK and not his own, we are put right there in the shoes of your average Wisconsin citizen in 1960 and get a sense of how the public perceived him. The beauty of these lightweight, small cameras is that you never see an individual react to the camera's presence. It is truly like there is no cameraman there at all, and that nurtures the aspect of direct cinema that strives to capture reality in its purest form.
It was morning, and Kennedy came down the stairs in his townhouse, and he looked at me and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want to place a camera with you for day and night for 5 days." He said, "Why should I do that?" And I said, "This is a new form of journalism, and we're simply going to watch what happens. We're not going to direct, we're not going to light, we're not going to ask you to do anything, but we have to be there." And he said, "Well, why should I do it?" And I said, "Because this will be a new form of history also, and it'll be a true history of what happened in Wisconsin."
When knowledge of the camera's presence is ridden, people act as they naturally would. Of course, the subjects like JFK were used to having cameras in their face, so perhaps it altered their on-screen behavior, but the moments that capture the public's view and attitude of the situation does provide an authentic look into this historical event.
In D.A. Pennebaker's Don't Look Back, the exploits and performances of Bob Dylan are captured in the fly-on-the-wall format that is typical of direct cinema. For instance, the iconic Give the Anarchist a Cigarette scene at the conclusion of the film takes place within the somewhat cramped confines of a car. The camera shakes and rattles along with the movement of the car, and periodically shifts its gaze between the occupants in the back seat and the dark streets outside the windows.
Give me a cigarette. Give the anarchist a cigarette.
This wandering eye approach to documentary filmmaking has the effect of almost completely immersing the viewer in the events on screen, as the camera seems to be a part of the action rather than merely a device to record said action. By using direct cinema techniques to blur the line between film and reality, Don't Look Back is able to directly control the way the audience perceives the subject of the documentary, which is Bob Dylan himself. Nearly every scene featuring Dylan, which is to say the majority of the film, serves to cultivate a specific image of the protagonist of the documentary. The image in question is one of a countercultural, somewhat bohemian folk singer who attracts youthful crowds in both the United States and abroad. The film contains roughly half an hour of performances by Dylan in front of crowds of varying size, and occasionally in collaboration with other artists, such as Donovan. While the filmmakers are perpetuating a narrative through composition and/or editing, the documentary is nevertheless grounded in the reality and true experiences of the film's subject. Direct cinema is able to simultaneously create and perpetuate a narrative about Bob Dylan whilst making the viewer feel as if they are along for the ride.
The Maysles brothers' documentary Salesman also embraces the fly-on-the-wall nature of direct cinema. The film was created during the peak of the counterculture era. In a time of hippies, drug use, and Jimi Hendrix, we got a documentary about Catholics selling Bibles. The filmmakers followed the various Bible salesmen as they traveled door to door in attempts to sell Bibles to Catholic families. The fly-on-the-wall nature of direct cinema was a prominent aspect of salesmen. The salesman that the film was centered around never acknowledged the camera's presence, and behaved as if the camera was not there at all. The audience sees everything that happens to the salesman. They are shown conversing in hotel rooms, reporting to their boss, and entering the homes of good Catholic families in hopes of distributing Bibles. Throughout the film, the salesmen are repeatedly promised riches if they successfully sell enough Bibles.
Money is being made in the Bible business. It's a fabulous business, it's a good business. All I can say to people who aren't making the money, it's their fault.
But nearly every house they visit declines their offer due to financial struggles or a lack of interest in their product.
I'm really not interested unless I speak it over my husband.
Yeah.
As the film goes on, the salesmen discuss their own financial issues amongst each other.
And it comes right down to it, it makes no difference to me. Because the English are not paying me bills.
Without the interference of the filmmakers, the behaviors, the actions, and the conversations amongst the salesmen were able to occur naturally. The film itself does not make any conscious criticism of the salesman or the failing Bible industry, but by showing the salesman's struggle to sell Bibles and the false hope given to the men by their boss, the film is showing what happens to people when they work within a dying profession. There is no question of ethics within salesmen. The subjects do not surrender any information that was pried by the filmmakers, and no situation is artificially created to test the salesman for entertainment purposes. In fact, the whole film is very repetitive. It follows the same people doing the same thing and getting the same results over and over again.
No, I don't think I better commit myself.
Why, you call me tonight. I don't understand very well English.
This is because the life of a Bible salesman is mundane and repetitive. There is no drama, there is no villain, and there is no deep conflict that pushes any plot. What drives the film is the filmmakers that follow the salesmen as they go knock on doors and try and sell Bibles. This is a perfect example of the fly-on-the-wall method of direct cinema.
In a 2003 interview, Robert Drew of Primary explained what he thought were the differences between cinema verite and direct cinema. He stated that, quote, "I had made Primary in a few other films, then I went to France with Leacock for a conference. I was surprised to see the cinema verite filmmakers accosting people on the street with a microphone. My goal was to capture real life without intruding. Between us there was a contradiction, it made no sense. They had a cameraman, a soundman, and about 6 more, a total of 8 men creeping through the scenes. It was a little like the Marx Brothers. My idea was to have 1 or 2 people, unobtrusive, capturing the moment. It is this core principle of filmmaking that makes direct cinema the most efficient method of representing an authentic reality in documentary. While many subjects who are aware of the camera's presence are apt to alter their behavior and thus disrupting the authentic reality, direct cinema is nevertheless the only ethical way of truly capturing the moment on film. Thank you all for listening.